Okay, we are here. Hello, everybody. Captions, thank you. How are y'all doing today? Nice to see ya. Dragon Sage, Ryan, Shade, good morning. Mort, of course, decided that right exactly this moment was going to be, you know, the time that he departed from the place he's been sitting for the last 2 hours. So let's go find Mort. Hey, Wolfenstein, nice to see ya. How you doing? Thanks for the treat, by the way, Dragon Sage. Appreciate it. Sorry that Mort hasn't really been getting him on stream. He's still not always 100% interested at this time of year, but I promise that our reptilian friends are getting treats. Frank just had a bunch of pumpkin, in fact, so I guess Mort has decided that that's where he wants to be. So, normally I would have done... I don't understand why my captions are just not doing anything. Oh, let me just run this windowed, and that'll probably help. He's got ape legs and ape arms. He's like an ape, Oxford ape, man. I love that video so much. You have no idea. Anyway, so I normally would have run slightly longer intro to let people get here, but I'm kind of on a time crunch today, so I guess, you know, as per usual, let me explain what's going on since this isn't a usual, like, normal stream. I'm not playing. This is going to be a video. And once I start it, it can't be stopped. So we're gonna roll with it as soon as it starts. This is not technically a task. Task stands for tool assisted speed run. Because a normal task would be, you know, some older games that you can emulate. You basically tell the computer what inputs to do all the time so that it always does the inputs perfectly. And tasks are meant to create like the perfect speed run, right? Because if everything happens perfectly, then you get the ideal time, or at least the ideal time that people are aware is possible. Because it's still people programming the inputs. So, you know, maybe there's inputs that they don't know about. But anyway, this is not technically a task because I have not programmed a computer to do these inputs. Instead, it's a segmented run, which compiles all of the best that we've ever gotten into a single run. So yeah, it's spliced, if that's what you want to call it. It's cut together, and it's... I mean, that's the way it is. I'm not trying to pass this off, right, as an any percent that I have done. I and multiple other members of the Team Eco community have contributed footage that has been cut together to create as perfect of a Last Guardian run as we can. It will include glitches and stuff that's like 1 in a million. Like literally there's some stuff in here I've only ever gotten once. So every now and then you might see some jitters or some weirdness as two clips are, you know, spliced together and the camera maybe like wasn't exactly the same. But this is what we've got. It's called a task because it's been called task up to now. Yes, that's basically it. and because tasks gives you more of an impression of what it is than just saying segmented run, right? Because a segmented run could just be like, I took my best segments. But that's not what I mean, right? So anyway, let's start. Obviously let me know if the audio is not loud enough on the task video or anything compared to me or just in general. And I will adjust it. We are comparing against last year's task because I update this every year. So we are running against a 244.54. For perspective, the average time to run a Last Guardian any percent is about 3 hours and 30 minutes. I often spend quite a lot of time explaining what a task is, because for a lot of people this is going to be their only encounter with this game, you know? Plus it gives more time for people to show up. So I'm going to be keeping notes. Hello, Mort. I'm going to be keeping notes about what I think that we can improve for next year. It's getting pretty tight. We've done a lot of improvements. So it's going to have to be something very shocking, right? That ends up saving like a minute or something over this current task. We're going to need some big discoveries. I feel like the task video is a little bit quiet. I'm going to boost it just a bit. Good morning, Chassis. Nice to see ya. How you doing? Captions, that wasn't even close to what I said, but whatever. Still have never gotten this to happen again. Well, you made it anyway, Chassis. Congratulations. So normally we wouldn't do the barrels like this. We would wait for Trico to eat one before giving him the second one. But, you know, kind of this once-in-a-lifetime thing, right? Trico actually ate both of those barrels in one bite. And weirdly enough, that happened on the GDQ channel. That was like the perfect opportunity to have that happen. It was really cool. And so we pull that spear, we start the spear pull while Trico's still falling. That's the ideal way to do it. And getting that at like 235 or something is extremely fast. In a normal any percent, you're going quite fast if you get that at like 250, 253-ish. And of course we skip cutscenes, and in fact we skip them kind of as optimally as possible on essentially the first frame that you can skip them. Which saves a smidge of time over standard any percent, because most runners are not going to get that, you know, frame perfect. But how are y'all doing today? I hope that you're doing good. We don't need to talk about the task the entire time. Do you check the optimal loading times? Actually, no. That's one area where technically we could improve, because there is always a range of load times depending on the console you're playing on, and just oopsie. I should actually pay attention to the splits. The console you're playing on, and even just run to run, people on the same console are gonna have different load times. There's a ledge grab. But we could, like, splice out... Like, we could test every load, right? and splice in the fastest. But I don't know. Somehow that feels like... I mean, it still qualifies within the scope of the task, right? But somehow that feels less satisfying as a means of time save. How difficult is it to task this? I suppose you don't have resync points, do you? It's literally just... I have to go through and, like, analyze frame by frame where's the closest I can unify these two clips, right? Which is why sometimes you can't even really tell, and sometimes there's a pretty big, like, chunk between, you know, two clips. Because we might have this 1 in a million thing that happened, and the camera angle is just garbage, you know, and there's nothing I can do to unify it. Thanks, Tic Tac. It's nice to see you. Have a good day. Hey, Rossi. Good morning. Yeah, it's segmented. We don't have the technology yet to emulate The Last Guardian such that we could do inputs. And honestly, I don't think that it would be taskable anyway, because Trico is different every time, right? So I could put the inputs in, but that doesn't mean that they would do anything from one run to the next. Which is kind of the same reason that creating like an actual blindfolded route is also really difficult. Like, you can make a blindfolded route for all of this when you're not on Trico, but as soon as you have to be on Trico, it's kind of a problem. Yes, every frame would depend on the frame before. And with Trico, he's not gonna let that stand. I improved the lake reset there just a little bit. I walked, you know, a couple frames sooner. It was truly like at the very edge of what you could reset for. I think we can make this faster, this shot. In fact, I'm gonna write that down. It's just really hard to get Trico to focus. Speaking of Mort, where did he go? Oh, I would love for this to be on PC. You have no idea just how much time I would spend modding this and doing all sorts of nonsense. Here's Mort. So we do this obviously very differently than we would in any percent. We do have to go and get the barrel and throw it into the water because that's going to cause Trico to come down, which triggers the checkpoint. So even if you can get up here without Trico, if Trico doesn't trigger that checkpoint, you can't go through this tunnel. There's just an invisible wall that doesn't let you out. Or, depending, if you do get out, the world outside here won't be correctly spawned and you won't be able to walk. You'll just fall through the floor. So we have to throw the barrel into the lake and do all of that stuff to get Trico down there to trigger the checkpoint, because that's the progression key for being able to do this cutscene. Oh, I doubt it too. Like, The Last Guardian is never coming out on PC, let's be real. I don't think that it would be deterministic even with perfect inputs, because there are times when the player, like, isn't even in control, right? Like, the player is doing nothing, and Trico behaves differently. Like, during those scripted events, or sometimes at Nom Noms when you feed Trico those 4 barrels, the actual, like, literal cutscene, it's not a scripted event, it's a cutscene, starts. And as it's starting, Trico lifts his head up. and then puts it back down for like no reason. And it's like the player had literally nothing to do with that. You think they'll remake this game since they remade The Last of Us 2? So they remade Shadow of the Colossus, which, you know, that's at least more promising that they remade some property from this franchise. But I think Eco would get it first. Oh, also these dodge rolls are new. It's really, really hard to do this without running into the walls or dying, but it saves time. That took me quite a while to get. But yeah, I think Eco would get the remake treatment first. And, like, having to remake Trico's AI is probably, like, too daunting to be worth it, you know? Frame perfect inputs plus system clock being set to the same time might work. Right. We don't know how that works, and I'm inclined to believe it's the system clock, but I don't know. And that would have to be, like, perfect, probably, even to the system clock. Like, starting at, like, 9 a.m. 02 versus 9 a.m. 01 might make a difference, I don't know. Could see it being console dependent, right? Because it's kind of like in Monster Hunter. I think it was Monster Hunter Tri on the DS. Like, and obviously other games are like this too. Like I think Pokemon is like this. Depending on what frame you start the game, like the loot table that you're on and the chance of you getting things is just different. So, like, there are some items that you just literally can't get based on the frame in which you started the game. And maybe Last Guardian is like that with Trico's AI. Like, the seed you get is determined at that point. So we have no idea how that works. I'm so excited because I haven't actually watched through the task since last year. I just edit the chunks that I know need to be edited, so little things like this trick I haven't seen since last year, and it's very exciting. This is like, I don't want to call it consistent, but it's certainly happened more than once. So if you wanted to go for it, you could probably get Trico to do this in an IL. Instead of climbing up the wall there. That's also possible, for sure, Chivio. The only reason that we think that it's kind of connected is because when one runner starts to experience something really weird, almost invariably other runners will start seeing it around the same time. And maybe that's just confirmation bias, you know? Maybe Trico does that stuff all the time, but somebody called it out and now you notice it. So, Chassis, that would mean that there is some predictability in the randomness, right? That's how that works. We did save time there on that U-wall reset. We just apparently didn't split it last year because I specifically fixed that reset. Because we mismenued in the previous year. So it only lost like a half a second, but I did fix it. So it's like consistent randomness, more like pre-existing randomness instead of like actively calculated randomness. Because the same thing is true with Pokemon. I don't remember what Pokemon game it is, but I remember watching a speedrun at GDQ that was like, we have to like enter the naming screen or something at such and such frame, because if we do, then the starter we pick is going to have perfect IVs or whatever. You know what I mean? Remember when Aiden fell through the floor and died at the start of the game? Right? And I don't know how that happened. It's never happened to anyone else. Yeah, so sometimes, thank you, Wolfenstein. Sometimes the video audio will temporarily disappear. Let me know if it doesn't come back after like a minute or two. But in general, the video audio may disappear for a little while. And those are going to be clips that are taken from something like a marathon or a stream where I was talking. Nice hallway jump. So I chose to have the audio gone rather than talk over myself. Yeah, that jump is so much fun. The day that I was farming it, I got really, really good at it. And then as soon as I stopped practicing, as in like within half an hour, because I went to go take a break, I had lost how to do it. Whoops, I forgot to split. We actually saved a little time there. I was rubbing my nose. I don't remember if somebody at some point had a submitted run that had that hallway jump. It was probably Walter, knowing him. But yeah, I know that, like, as a task, right, hypothetically, it should only ever get better. But that's not necessarily the case, as you see with, like, the splits here going from 5 seconds to 2 seconds. Some of that is gonna, the majority of it is gonna be because I accidentally split a second or two late last year, right? But there is gonna be one section where we are explicitly gonna lose time because I realized that I made a mistake last year. I spliced two things together that were not actually together. I was missing like 10 seconds of footage in between. So I fixed it this year for the sake of, you know, honesty, right? Does this very detailed practice translate to actual run improvements? It did when I first made the task. Because then I was like refining the entire game. And that was a big part of what took me from like the 350s down to the 330s and 320s. But now, I mean, I'm just grinding these absolutely ridiculous things that are never RTA viable, so not really. Because as the task gets more refined, you have to do progressively like wilder things in order to save time. Yeah, like I think that was from a marathon potentially, which is why we don't have audio right now. Nice jump into there though. I could like re-record that, I guess. I can probably do that again. Just to get the audio and have it be a little bit nicer. We have audio again? Yes. Okay, cool. This... I don't remember if Walter does this in the first place run of this segment, but this is undisputably the way to do this the fastest. It's just really, really risky. Because we trigger the cutscene in the hallway, and then we don't have to go through the hall if you can make that little physics boost there. How does this task reason about spear pulling? We, I believe, just get lucky. And Trico's spears fall out such that we don't need to worry about it. I can fix that. I don't need to bump into that wall. So this is new. All 4 of those armors went outside and were killed by Trico in a single hit. I discovered that. I think I was doing some kind of meme or challenge run or something. Oh, and that was Aiden's boost there. He just got yeeted straight up to the balcony. That's why the boy suddenly has a headband, because Aiden runs with the headband, so this is his clip. But the best way to reproduce Trico killing all 4 of those armors at once is actually to reset as soon as Trico wakes up and the fight with the armors starts. But most of the time, it ends up being slower. So everything just kind of worked together perfectly that time. And I have a clip of Trico actually killing the armors, all 4, in one swipe. It was just the boy himself wasn't in a very good position, so I didn't use it because it was slower. Trico has already run out for this part. But you can see that he wasn't supposed to do that. Whatever caused him to be out there quickly, like, was not supposed to happen because he was staring at the floor. His AI was confused, you know? Howdy, Mort. Well, there he be. And obviously we're choosing a scripted event here where Trico does really well. He doesn't get hung up on anything. I don't remember why I'm doing the movement that I'm doing, but whatever it was, it got Trico to do what he was doing fast, so. The nice thing about the task is that you know we're gonna get all the skips. You can just look forward to it. Oh, and that was actually an even nicer vine skip than I expected. I expected to run along the wall. But we didn't. And this should be first try. Yep. I don't know when we actually split vine skip, so I'm just gonna split it. Now this is new as well. You can't reset if you do vine skip. So instead, Trico will come to you very quickly if you just get up on these vines and don't look at him. And so he's already here, and he does the jump up because he doesn't know that you're there and he's trying to follow you. So you're just manipulating his AI by being out of view. And he just comes up real quickly. That way you don't have to wait for him to roll around in the water, and he like likes to yawn and sneeze and stuff if you do vine skip. I could not get that splice to look good. I remember fiddling with it forever. Poop would be so rad. Imagine having like a tasked poop run. Morty, I don't need to watch you pooping, buddy. Speaking of. Let's look at your face instead of your butt. The ultimate task, exactly. Like, I know the fastest place that he can poop. I know it exists. I've never gotten him to poop there. Even if I try to just sit and grind it out, I have never gotten him to poop there. I've tried it on files where I don't have any trophies. I've tried files where I have hundreds of barrels. It just doesn't matter. Looking at that other Trico is all that's required in order to snap Trico out of his little upset here. And of course, because this is the task, we just trust that Trico is ready to be reset without looking back at him. And of course he is. I want to say that we can do these stairs better, but I'm not actually sure that we can. I remember doing this for days to get that jump. That's been in the task for years, because I worked forever to get that. And it only happened once. It was that one time. But the ideal way to do this will probably be to make it up onto the second ridge. I can't imagine that it's in any way faster to do an extra jump, but I guess we'll see. Yeah, easy. Poor Trico. Got spears in him. But yeah, a lot of the time, actually, if you just proceed through the game and don't take any spears out, they'll just fall out. And yeah, you fail intensive care, but a lot of the time, probably a decent like 50-50, when you get to the spear check, you'll be fine. It won't say, hold on Trico, I'll pull it out. So it's worth it for the risk, you know? And I believe it's Aiden's fight that we use up here. The fight leading up to Command Skip, which is in his world record individual level. Yeah, that's Aiden, because you can tell by the headband, because that's what he always runs with. This is so fast. And I've sat and grinded this section and just never gotten it as fast as this, which Aiden has in an actual run on the leaderboard. Which is wonderful. And he still gives time for Trico's tail to come out. If Trico would have sprung out faster, well, maybe then the armors wouldn't have been in an ideal position. You can never really know. But that's everybody. I think what happened was Trico sprung out and killed at least 2 of the armors just by walking on them, which made that entire fight much easier. And then Trico was like already ready and starting to sprint. And of course killed that guy immediately. The original TAS used just my clips, and the vast, vast majority of this task, like seriously, like 99% of it, is my clips. But every now and then people like Aiden, you know, we have a community spreadsheet where they can put stuff in, and then I'll check it to see if it's faster than what I have. Like, technically, I think that Aiden's command skip is faster here, too. Because he doesn't let Trico come in as far.
釣り食うのいいてかさとウィズイイカスタにウィズイ
I'm just gonna write that down.
アティケタンイノイアーネットアギシ
For
オ
next year.
イエティソガズイノイクアギアタオリアリイエテニナ
So it's a community effort in spirit. In reality, it's usually mostly just me, which is fine. Because our community isn't that big, right? And of the people who run, you have to think about who runs and then actually wants to participate in grinding this stuff out, sometimes for days. So everybody's got a role to play. Plus, I know that Aiden is often busy. He wanted to participate more this year and just didn't have time. Oof, that was such a close jump. So I re-recorded that. I remember re-recording that because you don't really ever want those one-handed grabs. They're slower than grabbing with both hands. But I re-recorded it, and actually, because of the way that the boy jumped so far before the one-handed grab, it still ended up being faster than gently walking and then grabbing with both hands. Which just goes to show that that kind of stuff is like super situation dependent. Love this. These guys are just standing underneath Trico. And he's just like, nope. And they're dead. I got that, I remember, I think on the way to just getting to the next room to grind the next room. Trico just did that real quick and I happened to be recording. Which is why I will usually record everything that I'm doing, even if I'm in a section that I'm not trying to grind. Obviously, since this is a task, we don't take the time to look at this jump, we just make it. And not only do we make it, but we hold to make sure that we don't grab that top one just long enough that we go through the top one and grab the bottom one, which is obviously very risky. And the checkpoint is kind of a nightmare if you fail. But I think I got that on my first try. So we used to have this, I remember being sad taking this out. We used to have this where we would intentionally die. The boy's foot would clip the side of this platform, but then he would die. Because these armor's positions after death is more favorable than after reset. But then we just figured out an even faster way to do it, so. And this is even outdated from the any percent, because the any percent doesn't do that reset at all. Oh, that's so many armors. I do still think that this fight can be pretty majorly improved. Hypothetically, Trico should be able to complete that entire fight in 2 swipes. But obviously, grinding out the battles is an area where we need the most contribution. Because you just have to do it over and over and over. It's less about player execution and more about just chance. And sections like this, I doubt will ever be improved again. Because I grinded this out to maximize Trico's AI doing these little jumps. Which is why you'll see me just like randomly jump into a hallway up here. And I don't think it's gonna get faster than this. Because Trico always hustles a little bit more when he can't see you. Which is why I did that. Poor guy's got spears all over him. Oh, they'll fall out before it matters. So the upcoming bit, right, you're supposed to shove the thing underneath the door. And every now and then, and this isn't just exclusive to the task, every now and then you can get lucky during an any percent as well. Trico will just one cycle the thing. It's expected that he does too, and we just kind of plan for that, but usually when he tries to one cycle it, his AI gets confused and he ends up doing a 3 cycle, which is obviously worse. But every now and then, he'll like error out and one cycle it, and then error out in the middle of doing that and actually one cycle it instead of going to the 3 cycles. Walter found this. This is not Walter's clip, but Walter found that new vine skip instead of doing the pillar drop for the fall damage cancel. So that'll save a couple seconds. And of course we got a version of that where we grab the pot and are able to walk past the chain instead of having to turn around backwards. Better routing. I wish we could somehow, like, clip that jug through the door so that we didn't have to take the time to lift that bar. Sorry, Trico. Imagine doing a tasked all barrels. How much more effort would have to go into, like, getting Trico to optimally eat all 48 barrels in this game? What a nightmare. Oh, squeaky squeaky from the dog, which you may or may not be able to hear. So yeah, when I drop this axle down to the floor, Trico's supposed to drop the pot and then like try to charge the door and everything. And that's the normal 2 cycle. And it has to do with how quickly you get this axle to the door. But as you can see, he was kind of locked into the middle of an animation of attacking that on the ground, which meant that I was able to get past that trigger for him dropping it and coming over to the door. He does still drop it, but as you'll see, he doesn't charge the door. Which saves time. And like I said, normally when that happens in a run, he will pick it up for just a second and then realize that he didn't do the thing he was supposed to do, and he'll drop it again and come over and charge the door. But he doesn't. And I think that this happened during a stream, which is why there's no audio at the moment. I've never been able to get Trico to do it again. Otherwise, I would swap the video. And we give Trico this command as he's coming through the door, so that he has the command and then we're just up on his head. And he should just self-navigate. I can hear Nanners asking to come out. Hi, Nanners. Break this during the cutscene. Which, to be fair, is something that you can learn how to do in any percent as well. And of course we don't wait for Trico, which that was a lucky roll of the dice there. Trico doesn't always lift his head up high enough for you to be able to do that. That's fairly rare. Get a little physics speed boost down the stairs. I tried for so long to like be able to grab Trico's tail during this jump, or you know, to be able to grab it here when the bridge collapses so that he doesn't have to turn around and grab me. Never got it to work. There's like a little invisible barrier, I think. Or grab is turned off. It's hard to tell. Because sometimes during events like that, the grab will be turned off, just like the fight with the other Trico. Which is why sometimes you die. Hi, Morty! What's up, buddy? I tried running across those steel things to not have to come all the way down to this, this jump, but sadly it's not quite far enough. He's all over the place today, because of course. Usually you don't want to shove this thing all the way down on your own. You want to just like get it started and then stay back here with Trico, because otherwise Trico goes too far forward. But that just happens to be, like, perfectly lined up that time. And based on how little time we gave Trico, it was lucky that he caught us. I mean, he's ready essentially as soon as he turns to you. So instead of going up over his head, we go over his chest and arm, which is very risky, which is why there's a splice there, because it's super easy to die. And I'm sure that I died like 30 times trying to get that flip. I want to fix that jump, I think. Because I went kind of sideways, and I don't have to go sideways. And just go straight back. We no longer do a reset here. This is true for any percent as well. We used to do a reset so that that guy in the background would have a spear and would go after Trico instead of us. But since we are doing circle grabs now, we can get up there just fast enough that that guy doesn't grab us. So it's not a big concern. Don't take the pendulum back, which makes this jump much harder because you have less momentum, but we just run along the edge. What you doing, Mort? Becoming radioactive and iridescent, I see. Oh. Something is happening. I'm just trying to find your face, Mort. There it is. So actually, in the future, it may be better to not run up that spiral staircase. It impacts Trico's AI a little bit. I'll have to just compare times. So desperately, I want to be on Trico as he comes running out of here and just yeet across to the eye without having to do any of this jumpy stuff, using like a super jump. I've never gotten it to work. That one I have been working on for years, so it might not be possible, but that would save so much time because we wouldn't be doing any of this. And here we just touch the platform. That's the checkpoint. The negative, of course, is that the momentum of you hitting it isn't consistent if you reset. So it has no momentum and you have to wait a little bit longer for it to go down so that you can jump. But assuming that you do everything perfectly, right? Because this is a task. That's still faster than using the chain to get down. And this is really the new way to do Eye in the Sky in general. It's becoming more common in any percent for people to go up like that instead of across. So that used to be a TAS only thing, and now it's crept its way into any percent. We'll make a blind jump to Trico here, based solely on timing. Timing, of course, is different every time, so that's why we don't do this in any percent. Because I can't, you know, I'm looking at Trico to see if he's ready. And then we have to look away to make the jump, so we just happen to line it up. And the reason that I went down a bar to make that jump is not only because, you know, it's harder to time the jump when you're higher up, but also because if you go down to that lower bar before Trico jumps, you don't get the slow motion when you fall onto Trico's back, which is obviously a little bit faster. Morty, can you pick a place and stay there? He's like, no. Never. So all of this took me a really long time. But we moved throughout this cutscene, which is very risky. So that we're perfectly positioned on Trico's back. And we can jump during the scene there. And already be over here. Jumping past that pillar. I don't remember if it was Aiden or Walter who found it. But that has been added this year. Instead of shimmying past it. And same for this. We used to shimmy across the front of this to skip the cutscene trigger. And now we do a jump and grab. Which is faster than shimmying the entire way. It's also very hard, because it's easy to miss that platform entirely and die, and then you end up back on Trico's back. This still proceeds basically like normal though. There's not too much we can do to make this faster, except for just optimize how we run up the stairs. Because as you'll see, I'm sticking to the outside here instead of actually on the stairs. Because that allows the boy to do his more, like, connected, smoother run animation. Just slightly faster than the animation he has when running up the stairs. Wild to think that we are already more than a third of the way done with this run. That do be the task for you. So this has been amended this year. We're still a little unclear on exactly what the fastest is. These dodge rolls are faster than dropping and running, but it's probably true that jumping is even faster still. So it needs further testing, basically. And now we're realizing the gains from those last couple things that we changed. I spent a long time grinding out barrel skip here because there is a way to not have to walk across the train tracks. You just walk across the wall instead. But the time that it takes to set up walking across the wall, which to be fair is only like a second or something, is all the time it takes to get on the tracks anyway. So I couldn't produce a situation where it beat what I already had here. Even though it was cool looking. Mort's being a bro for sure. What a guy.
Aku na tisodu, atana kam, agikuna inaiku. Aturi kono. Iana hotu kuya tudu. Ate de katu. Arietiak agaraho.
So even in the task, I don't take the risk of throwing that to Trico. For some reason, his AI just doesn't seem to understand if you throw it. And that's actually one of the... I think that is the only time that I've been able to make that jump like that without having to hold on. I've been getting really lucky with Trico in this dark room this month during Treaksmas. So I'm wondering if maybe something that I've gotten this month might beat this. It's real hard to get Trico to jump here. Nah, I mean he's got it. That seems quite fast. And we've changed this reset, which is why we saved that extra like second. Because I didn't jump off of Trico. Dog, what, pray tell, are you doing? You have your ball? Oh, thank you for the ball. Thanks. Here. There you go. She dropped it on my lap. Oh, it's the ball again. It's on my lap again. Not right now, hun, okay? Not right now. So of course we get cutscene skip here, where we don't have to watch Trico noticing the other Trico in the background. And actually huge and very, like, not noticeable. When we came up on top of that rope, we were facing the correct direction. Which is always extremely frustrating in speedruns. Almost always you will come up in the opposite direction, the direction you jumped from. And you have to spend all this extra time turning around. See, like that. Like, even in the task, I have never gotten a clip where he just faces the right direction. This is an improved rope climb. This is as fast as you can go. Which is a fraction of a second better than what we had before. Alu, thank you for the resub. Appreciate you. 54 months. Didn't even know I was streaming that long. Nice to see you. How you been? I'm gonna need a new, badge again. Now, I tested Panda Plummet here, and I remember thinking to myself, like, oh yeah, you know, Panda Plummet, obviously, way faster than whatever we're doing here. And it actually wasn't. So I'm interested to see what ended up making the cut here. Okay, so we still do Panda Plummet. We just spend the extra time to do the command up top. Oh, I forgot to split. So it's a modified Panda Plummet that kind of merges both of the strats that were there. Because we spend time up top giving Trico the command to jump, which is very risky, because usually you just slip off that thing once it starts to go backwards from the counterweight being dropped. And then you die, and that's bad. I wish there was a way to, like, dodge roll up this little shimmy part. But all of this is pretty standard, not much we can do about it. Actually, I think we could make a blind jump there onto that platform and then do a second jump and just be there. I'm gonna add that to the list. Boy, it does not want me to write the word plummet. Cool. I was typing, so I didn't split that either. Sorry. And all we need is to touch that platform on the top. That's the checkpoint. I didn't reset because I was gonna die. I reset because that was the checkpoint and that was all I needed. So as per usual, Trico's gonna do this himself. We could use some more, if people want to be brave, people just to run this and have Trico do this and try to shave off a second or two. Because Trico will typically take the most optimal path, right? But sometimes, you know, he might tippy-tap for a second longer than he needs to, or he might take just a second more to figure out where he needs to go, so... This is a fast one for sure, which is why it's in here. But it could also always use some more runs just to see what we can get. But as you can see, his spears are gone, right? Mostly. I think he still has some in his other side, but we just let them fall out. And he's almost there. Thinking ahead, I think we also want to modify the jug, which is going to be coming up after this fight with the guys with shields. I'll explain more when we get there about why we want to fix it. That little smidge of time save was the better rope climb. That's where that's reflected. Now, if only we could find a way to get the boy out of this tree. I mean, it's not possible, obviously. Because this section is essentially as close as you get to just like straight scripted, but it involves the boy, right? I do wonder if there's some optimal combination of calling him or whatever that gets him up here faster. Because basically what we know is that he's on a minimum timer. There is, like, as fast as he seems to be able to do it, but he can go over that. So maybe hypothetically we're wrong and he could also go under that. You see, like, right now he's just not doing anything. And I think that he has to do that. But it would be nice if he didn't. This one he typically does pretty fast. I'm not super worried about that. As long as you as the runner are not slacking off, he'll come right up. So we'll do like authentic vine skip here, which obviously is very risky, but I mean it's the task, so you run through, you hop down, you don't die because it's the task. So that's what real vine skip looks like for the people who usually watch my streams and watch me do like the secondary vine skip, which is much safer. I used to do that version until I just died to it like 30 times in a row and I was like, this is not worth it. Because that seems to have always been a unique thing with my game. No other runners have ever encountered that problem. I mean, they'll die to vine skip, sure, but they somehow get a checkpoint that I don't. And so they're able to just like retry it again immediately, whereas I need to climb Trico's tail again. So... And yeah, this door is open, which can happen sometimes, so that we can just get that right down to Trico, and it's lined up where I don't have to actually feed it to him. It'll always take the same amount of time to do this, essentially, so not much we can do here. I've tried, you know, giving him commands and everything, but since he already knows where he's going, his AI is just pathing the fastest way. So giving him commands just messes him up. This, however, requires very specific commands. And then he'll just do it. I actually think that could be done a smidge faster, like a half a second faster. I'm gonna write it down. Okay. Trico's auto jumping here, which is ideal. I don't know why he does that sometimes, and sometimes he doesn't. It's because he's Trico, I mean, that's the reason. So slight modification here. I changed the way that we get into this window. I just changed it to a circle grab, which is marginally faster. Like seriously, it's like, I don't know, 0.7 or 0.6 faster. Because then we grab with both hands and we don't do the dangly thing. This fight has also been changed. It's basically non-negotiable to get that guy out the window for the task. But Trico actually killed one of those guys he jumped on, and I got a clear shot right to the helmet, which is like huge. And he had to come down and just tap that guy. And I wish that I had reset like so much faster. Because, don't mind the splits, that was just me not splitting at the right time. I wish that I had reset so much faster because that fight was over. It's just I was looking around for more armors. So, I mean, that fight can be improved. Basically, all fights can be improved. We know that. Because in a hypothetical world, which the task is, any fight can essentially be finished in one hit, right? In the case of Trico there, that's not necessarily true. It would have to be 2 hits because the armors in the back don't get far enough up to be included in that fight fast enough, but still. So on the one hand, it's nice to know that you could always have a better fight, like that's always something that you could improve. And on the other hand, you know that there's not much you can do to control it, so grinding it out is essentially just letting the chips fall where they may. At least that one's easy, because the checkpoint's right in front of it. And obviously we want to step through that door instead of clinging onto it. So this part. There's a new way to do this. I think it's in some of the ILs, Aiden's and Walter's, where instead of like coming back to Trico here, he like steps forward and you stay on him the entire time, and he will nuzzle the jug forward himself. And in the process of doing that, you can jump off of his head onto the jug and then up onto the platform. So that will need to be compared with essentially what is an ideal version of the other method, right? And I believe we use Aiden's dangly here. Aiden had a very fast little segment. We'll see as soon as we see the headband. Yep, there it is. So I ran dangly a ton, and even the one where Trico breaks the ceiling basically immediately, I could not get to be faster than Aiden's. Which doesn't seem like it, right? Because Trico's standing up here doing nothing, but it is notably faster. And some of it has to do with Trico's AI, some of it has to do with the fact that this is routed differently now. We don't go and drag the box first. We get Trico into position and then we drag the box. So we can do the process of not looking at Trico's tail and getting his tail down and moving the box at the same time. Goliath! Boop! Hello! Thank you for the boop. The world is now better with one more boop in it. And obviously that reset is a lot faster as well, so. Nice job, Aiden. That was 20 seconds. That's a significant portion of the task. So I'm back here on Trico's tail because I'm going to glitch out this fight. It's risky, and Trico's gonna like drag me over this pillar and almost kill me. But if you are down on Trico's tail below the level of where the armors are, before the fight starts, the armors won't wake up. And that doesn't mean that you don't suddenly have to do the fight. You can see them over there, like they're not angry, right? That doesn't mean you don't have to do the fight, because Trico's still gonna murder them. But he's got targets that aren't moving and aren't fighting back. So it makes it much easier for him to do that fight. And of course we're wedging that into the corners so that we can do the Sancho step. Trico should already be calmed down. Because that fight was easy, which meant that he finished it faster, which meant that he had more time to calm down and be ready for that barrel. And we can force quit Trico's little happy dance there. As sad as it is, he doesn't have to do the happy dance. You can subvert him and make him not do it. So I still do it for marathons, but for basically any other run, I just cancel him out of it. Where are you off to, Mort? It feels so bad to take that happy dance out. It's so sad. You ruined everything. As always. Almost died there. I don't know if you saw that rock, like, force push me back down in the middle of my jump. But for the purposes of the task, That was useful because it meant that the arc of my jump was not as high, so I hit the ground very, very slightly sooner. So we give Trico that command in the middle of his scripted thing. Sometimes he'll still do that scripted thing, which is throwing you onto his back. Sometimes he won't. If you don't die from being thrown onto his back, it's more advantageous. Obviously, if you do die, it sucks. But if you can not just slide off, then Trico can be working on doing this while you're still getting onto him. We are now approximately halfway through the task, which is just wild to me that this is the halfway point of this run. When usually it's like Cage. And don't worry about little discrepancies in time. That's just like the time it took for me to bring my hand to the split button, so. We did the checkpoint reset there, which spawned only 1 armor instead of 4. I have not yet found a way to make it spawn 0, sadly. I think that Trico will always have to do a fight here. So how does this task work with random stuff like spears? We don't worry about the spears because they should just fall out over time. Or essentially, since contiguous runs of this game can get to the spear check without pulling spears and not have to worry about pulling spears, we don't worry about it. Because we know that it's possible to not pull a single spear over the entire run and still be able to pass. As for fights, we try not to splice in the middle of a fight because, you know, that's more difficult to be fair about, you know. So fights are typically taken just as a whole. We try to keep it as fair as possible. I worked for quite a while this year on these water puzzles, and I don't think that I ended up being able to use any of the footage. Because we're gonna kind of cheese Trico on the second puzzle by diving first, and then he gets confused and dives after us, and we happen to like meet underwater, and it's much faster than giving him the command. So I tried to do that in the first room, and he got like super confused. It was basically non-workable. So I had a hypothetical that I thought would save a lot of time, but it ended up not being anything. No, the task is not the whole game programmed as one sequence of inputs. That doesn't work for a couple reasons. First of all, and foremost, because we can't emulate this game, which means we can't do that whole input thing. But second of all, because Trico's different every time. So even if I put the inputs in, Trico's going to be in a different spot, and it's not going to work, right? Which is why we just have to kind of live with segmented stuff. Yeah, there's a spear. That's going to fall out by the time really, by the time that we just go over a hard reset, which we're about to, once Trico leaves me behind here, yes, the tool assisted is the editing software. The tool is the editing software that I have used to put this together as close to authentically as possible. I just call it a task because, to me, task better captures the concept of what it is, as opposed to a segmented run. Because, like I said before, if I say segmented, most people are going to think, oh, so you took your best times for each of the individual levels and just put them together. No, that's very much not what I did. I did much more than that. Task kind of gives more of the impression that this is as perfect as we are aware it can be, right? So this is slightly different. It's faster to swim like this underwater than it is to swim on top of the water. So as long as we time it exactly perfectly, we'll have just enough air to get in there and get back up to the top. Because we don't want to run out of air while we're still in that room. Even though running out of air gets us up to the surface faster because the boy will start to panic and like claw his way back up to the top. Once he's at the top, he'll gasp for a little while. And we can't do any commands or anything during that time. So it's slower to have that happen even if you get to the top of the water faster. So here, I'm just gonna dive, and that's gonna confuse Trico, and he's gonna like try to follow me. Like his AI saw me dive and committed to the dive at the same time that I happened to grab his leg. Which means that even though you can't really see what's happening, he's going down into this door without me ever having to give him the command to do that. And I only got that to work once. But hey, I got it on video, so that's what matters. I did, for some reason, I think it was Tricofecta in Really Really Longathon this year. Trico just turned around in this hallway for like no reason. So that is the 11 seconds saved from swimming instead of flapping around at the top of the water.
Atamise Tarana, Ototuri Kuno, Irakazi, Arasai, Iniazi, Awi.
Yeah, it's always interesting. The comment, maybe one day we'll have AI assisted tasks. It's always interesting that like a task seems so like perfect, right? You see tasks of like Super Mario and stuff like that, and it's like so precise, but it's still limited by the runners. Like there could be things that they don't know about or things that they've never thought of that could save just immense amounts of time. And so it's difficult to ever truly say like this is a perfect run, right? Because for all you know, there's a way to just skip right to the end of the game or something if you clip through a wall. And here we run across this railing instead of doing the like long wobble with your arms out. I've done this in a marathon setting or in a race setting before, so it's not like TAS only. It's RTA viable. It's just very risky. That's so interesting. Exhaustive problem space searches and, you know, brute force tassing Like, I would have to imagine that that only works with games like Super Mario 64, right? Like, it probably can't work in, like, a 3D environment because there's too much, I would think. I don't actually know. And, like, how do you get it to adapt to what it's already learned? I don't know how that works. It's very interesting. Because naturally that's more efficient. Also, this is Aiden's section now, you can see. Doing that nice little vine bit there. That's more efficient than people just doing it themselves. A person can do inputs less precisely, less consistently, and less frequently than a machine, right? So anytime you see that boy with the headband, that's going to be a clip from Aiden. And now we're switching back to me. I think potentially with practice, this could be RTA viable, but it's just so risky. It's so risky because it's kind of physics manip a little bit. And you're doing all of this without being able to see. And as you can see, she's like right there. For the entire time, she's like right there. But you don't have to do the entire vine climbing section if you do it that way. We came at it from the back, basically. Is it 3D? Am I thinking of the wrong Mario? I'll be completely upfront and say that I haven't really played very many Mario games. I'm sure I'm thinking of the wrong Mario. Because for Last Guardian, right, something like that, if we could set up something to just keep hammering it away, Cage here would be like an ideal contender, right? Like, I would want to see if we can trigger Cage without getting into Cage, which is something that I myself grinded for a couple weeks. But as soon as the Cage turns on, there's like an invisible barrier. But we don't know if that's 100% consistent. Like, maybe there's a tiny little place where I could like swoop my way through. Because those little swoops are possible in this game. We've seen that at like Command Skip, where I just teleported through a wall because I was going to grab Trico, and it like forced me through the wall. So we know that's possible. Farewell, Mort. You sat still for a hot second. And like, I really, for a long time I tested at this point, can I just roll the cage off the cliff, right? Because I thought that if I could roll the cage off of the far cliff, it might, kind of like Drawbridge Skip, it might just default spawn me at the next checkpoint for the cage, which would be like rolling down the hill, instead of letting me die. But again, there's an invisible wall. There's an invisible wall essentially right to the right of where I am right now. And potentially, with enough momentum, you could go over it or something. I think that there are potentially a lot of exploits around Cage, but... And if we could just go out of bounds here, we might actually even be able to look and see where the wall is. Because we can do that at White Tower, as you'll see later when we go out of bounds and suddenly White Tower looks absolutely ridiculous and neon green. You can often see where the cubes and walls are from the back end. I believe that I improved this section this year, if I recall. Just a snappier reset for Trico. Didn't have to wait quite as long. Yeah, I mean, I would have to imagine that a game like this is too unpredictable to try to AI grind out, right, in its current state. I drank my Gatorade too fast. Because there are definitely things that happen in this game that you can just tell, like, whoa, that was not supposed to happen. And that's why sometimes we just get random super bounces. That's why Aiden got that super bounce up at the beginning of the run past the first cage. Like, he was just on Trico's leg, and then voila, he was up in the scaffolding. With no climbing involved, you know? That's not supposed to happen, but... Oh, we get a really, really obedient Trico here. He doesn't ask for pets. He just goes immediately to pushing. And then, of course, we took the clip where we had the most streamlined cage. It's down the little path there. That's fair, Chassis. Like, this game obviously has a ton of fail-safes because it expects more things like that, you know? Hey, Morty, can you not push your camera over? Wow, Morty, you're just really going for it. At the very bottom of the camera, you can see the face of a little shenanigan maker. So I actually grinded this out quite a lot too, trying for a hole-in-one. Because essentially this is a hole-in-one. And I actually got one and I was so excited. I was like, yes, finally! And it wasn't faster than this. I was like, are you kidding? I spent like 3 days on this. Do you want to come out? Is that what you're trying to tell me, buddy? He's scratching at the door. Yeah, it's really wild what people have found in games. Like, I was just happy in this game to get that glitch at White Tower that lets you see the loading zones and stuff as, like, actual green objects. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And that's just a regular part of game design, right? You're just looking at it from the back when it doesn't have the texture on it. So it's not even anything... Oh, I didn't split. It's not even anything like, whoa, I can manipulate the game or anything. It's just like, it's cool to look at the green square. You know? I'm so excited to get to White Tower again. Like, that is my favorite thing in the entire task. Because you don't break this game. That's the thing, right? This game refuses to be broken in any substantial way. And I forced it to break anyway. So for just a fraction of time, we get to be like out of bounds and actually doing things. I've wanted to make a blindfolded Last Guardian for so long, but like I said, you know, Trico's different all the time, and even with surround sound speakers and my very good ears, I can't get enough information about like exactly where he is and what direction he's facing and stuff to be able to actually adapt on the fly, which I would have to do in order to make progress, you know? So you can do some blindfolded Last Guardian stuff, primarily when Trico isn't involved. Like you could do White Tower blindfolded. If I did it yesterday on an iPad, you can do it blindfolded. But because for example, right here, where the boy is standing right now, sometimes Trico will spin toward that on his own. And sometimes he'll just continue to stare at the wall for like ever. And it's like, okay, what do you do when you have a blindfold on? Right? And he's just standing on this platform tippy-tapping, and you can't tell if he's turning or if he's just tippy-tapping. Also, I improved that section a little bit. There should be a little bit of time save that comes from that. Is better jumps with Trico. Probably about 2 seconds. Yeah, Last Guardian has a lot of information hiding. You can't actually know the state of things, you can only see the results of it. Which is a good way to describe it. Or like sometimes, you know, you're hanging by your shirt near Vine Skip. And with the same inputs, and I know it's the same inputs because we do them the same way in every run. They have to be done the same way. Sometimes Trico just decides to jump to the floor. And it's like, what? Why did you just abandon me? And then that changes the rest of everything you're doing because you need to add more commands to compensate for getting him back up to the top. Do you think Trico's AI is just like a ton of if-then statements? Like, I don't... He's very complicated, you know? Because the things that we know about Trico's AI are that he has this system for attention, with the boy typically being the thing in the room that has the most attention value. Which, you know, changes what he focuses on. So he'll usually focus on the boy. But things that have higher value than the boy, like the eyeballs, or... I'm trying to think what else has higher value. Like armors have higher value. Helmets, you know. Those will, like, override his attention to the boy. And that's why it's really hard to get him to poop. Because he needs to not be attending to something in order to poop. And since the boy is almost always with him... I mean, so would I, Chassis. That would be amazing. That would tell us so much about why Trico does what he does and, like, how we can make it better, right? Because you can see the evidence of simple things. Like, you know, you want him to go in a certain direction and he turns around and tries to go somewhere else. And you can tell that it's because his AI encountered an obstacle and his pathing was like, nah, I can't go that way. But sometimes he just does absolutely, seemingly, nonsensical things, and there has to be a reason. There has to be a logic that he's following. It's not, I mean, it's not truly random, because that's not how programming works. Yeah, so there's our little bit of time save there. For the jumps and for I removed an accidental grab on those ledges right before the limit. I would believe that intentional nonsense where the game has a chance to just ignore what would happen and pick something different. Because that makes him seem more real, right? And it's funny that you say that, Chassis, because that brings up... I wasn't paying attention. That brings up an interesting point that we have a good example of with the pathing nodes. After Trico eats the 4 barrels when he fights with the other Trico and he's injured, there's jumps up to the top in the pink sky area. And the one jump at the end, before he makes it to the broken drawbridge, is always wrong. So he will always, 100% of the time, look in the wrong direction. Because normally, right, his nose is supposed to be pointing toward the jump that he's going to make. So he always looks in the wrong direction. And then right as his jump animation starts, he's jumping in the correct direction. So there's something weird about that. Something about the pathing or his attention or whatever, however that function works, that's not quite functioning correctly in that specific place. And I always thought that that was very interesting. And I don't know why. Like, I don't know why he does that, but... That jump sounds hard-coded, as in, like, his AI is trying to look at something interesting, but he's hard-coded to jump the other way, and so it collides with each other. Because we'll see it here in, like, I don't know, 30 minutes. I wonder if that stresses him out. So it's like little things like that that you get to know from playing this game dozens or hundreds of times, right? You start to see the areas where his AI is like barely hanging on. But even like the scripted scene that we're doing now, you know, he'll do this slightly differently every time. And presumably it's because there are markers, right? Like walk here and then run here and then walk here. And it's just like a dot on the ground that he has to get to. And then his AI is solely responsible for figuring out how to do that. And it might vary like ever so slightly each time. So it's like active calculation. It's not, as you said, hard-coded in this specific instance, or else he would do it the same way every time. Which is why I overtook Walter's world record at this point during this cutscene, because my Trico was faster. And it's also interesting to see kind of how this works. We won't see it in this run because obviously this is optimized. But in the final fight in White Tower, the 3-phase fight with the guys on the terraces, almost invariably it will end with one guy on the terrace and a one-horned armor on the floor. And Trico will, like I said, almost invariably smack the one-horned armor that's on the floor and then get distracted by the one on the ceiling. And he'll go back and forth between the two. And it's like, it's weird because you would think that if they had the same attention value, he would just stay on the one that he's paying attention to. But on the other hand, if they had different values, he wouldn't be switching back and forth, he would just be switching to the one with the higher value. And so it's very weird how his AI works in that specific situation. So you almost always have to help him with the one on the floor. Because he won't kill it. He'll just keep getting distracted. And that is an interesting consideration because the armor on the top, on the scaffold, he will kind of go back and forth along, he'll kind of oscillate on the top. And I wonder if him doing that temporarily moves him like just far enough away that Trico attends to the one on the floor repeatedly. Okay, so this section with the mine door, I think that we're actually going to lose some time because I fixed a problem from last year's task where there was a section that was accidentally left out. We're not going to lose like a ton of time, but it's just in the interest of being fair, right? We skim that lever so that we don't take fall damage and we don't have to use the ladder. And obviously, I mean, this is a task. We're gonna get mine skip. Yoink. That saved so much time last year. That seriously saved like 40 seconds. Because last year was the first time that we had mine skip in here. I did improve that reset though, so that helped to balance out some of the time that we lost. But yeah, I would love to see, like, even just a fragment of how Trico's AI works. And more than anything, I would like to see what impacts him pooping, right? Because the way that I see it, it's probably random. What I think is happening is there are conditions. There are like if-then phrases, right? Like if Trico is on a flat surface, if he doesn't have something above a certain value to attend to, if he's calm, you know, all these other things, then we can roll the dice, as it were, on is he gonna poop? And that number is very low. Like the true number there is low. And as you give him more barrels, maybe that number increases a little bit, but it's still very low. So, that's my hypothesis about how the poop works, because I've gotten poop in an any percent by giving him the minimum barrels to progress through the game. So it's possible that I just rolled a very lucky number, right? And it's funny, you know, Doorknob, that you say a game that learns from the player's actions, because that's what they were gonna do with Last Guardian. They were going to have Trico adapt to you and, you know, learn from the kinds of puzzles that you were struggling with and be more likely to give you hints faster when you encountered those puzzles. If it was platforming, if it was like you need to grab something, whatever. And they said that they ran out of time to be able to do that. So, I mean, that was a consideration, like even PS3 somehow. I don't know how they were planning on doing that. But there are still remnants of that in the game, which is how Trico, you know, sometimes gives you hints about where you need to go. If he notices that like X time has elapsed and you haven't solved the puzzle. Well, we know that he has loops, Chassis, because he can get permanently looped at right before Vine Skip. He can get stuck in a cycle of roaring at the tower, looking at you, looking up at the tower and roaring, looking at you. And the only way to break him out of it is to get off of his back. And I don't know why that would fix it, but it does. But he picks up on the fact that you got off of his back and that breaks him out of the loop. Love this White Tower segment. Spent a lot of time, obviously, grinding this out to get this as perfect as possible. Yeah, it would have to be formed of like a lot more than it would look like, because otherwise you could permanently get stuck in a loop, right? If you don't go back far enough. Wow, what a jump. That was Aiden there, doing this run, because Aiden has a blue Trico. What a jump and run down this bridge. And then it's back to me. Obviously we jump straight across and then just immediately duck down and run up, and that White Tower skip is done in like 5 seconds. Of course I forgot to split, but whatever. We didn't actually lose time, I just forgot to split. Getting that White Tower skip and getting it to like tap down and run up and everything was the first time, because that was from the original TAS, like the very first TAS that I released. That was the moment that I realized how much time we could save. Like that all worked and it all came together, and I had footage that cut down White Tower skip by a further, you know, like 25 seconds or something, was when I realized just how much time this task could save over any percent. Like a human contiguous any percent. Because before that I was just kind of like, well, I'll just make any percent a little faster, whatever. You know. But that White Tower skip was what kind of cemented it as like, nah, we're gonna do this for realsies. And to be quite honest, I'm already really proud that we're saving, you know, close to 1.5 minutes at this point in the run. Because I have worked my ass off on this over the years. And to still, like, be scraping more than just a couple seconds out of it, I'm really proud of that. And credit where credit is due, a lot of that is Aiden. Aiden had really important clips this year. Like, one of Aiden's clips was 20 seconds by itself. That was gargantuan. So sometimes you just kind of hit the limit of what you can do by yourself, and other people just have better ideas, or they, you know, have for some reason a better Trico, or who knows, you know. But it's been nice to have so many clips from Aiden in here. Beautiful jump. Exactly where you want to be. And of course, if you're not familiar with the run, you probably didn't see the difference, but in the jump before that, when Trico first landed on this tower, typically we would reset so that we don't have to climb Trico, but I was moving during the cutscene so that I was just on Trico's head and able to step off of him. And it's really risky to move during that cutscene because usually you die, but I mean, this is a task, we can do it as many times as we want, right? I believe I improved this reset as well. I can't remember if that was this year or last year.
Artisakyak Yetunina Atorikono Agiane Heteroi Yo Agatu Ian Ihedu Nezuna Arakulo Kutio Otiana Risoma Kura Letu Arake.
Yeah, a little bit better. Now I want to watch because I don't remember if I canceled Trico out of his little shouting thing up here. It's the same as his little happy dance after Dangly. You can cancel him out of a supposedly scripted action. Wow, that was fast, dude. He was down there like immediately. He hesitated a little bit before doing this, but now he's spinning fairly fast, so this seems quite decent. So yeah, walking along here, he has a little shouting trigger. Yeah, no, he skipped it for sure. He would not be here this fast if he was doing it. Love this fight. There was so much work that went into improving this fight. Oh, and you know, actually, being already a minute 30 ahead, because I don't actually know what the final time of this task is. All that I checked was that it was faster than the previous year. But we actually have I think, a fairly decent save coming up here that I discovered. Or rather, that I finally just grinded out. First of all, we didn't move that eyeball as far. We moved it to exactly the place that it needed to be to fall and no further. As you can see by it just barely falling. Move during the cutscene. Get on the chain to be over here as fast as possible. Trigger the trigger Trico. It was so, like, this was one of the most fun parts to try to task, because a lot of the time, the stuff that I found just by, like, yeeting myself. I was just like, what happens if I just, like, jump here? And I don't know where I'm jumping, let's just jump and see what happens. And you discover so many things that way. Well, that's why Trico stares at the wall sometimes. He's like, I don't know, I guess I better just pick something. Pick the camera so that we can move, and then this was like so risky. It was so satisfying though. Because then I'm on the Trico's back leg, and I'm already where I need to be for the tail. I loved that so much. Let go of the tail, I'm already at the lever. by the time that that cutscene starts. And of course we're around Trico. We don't hit the floor there before the Trico's cutscene starts. Therefore, there is a chance that you'll be able to push these minecarts, and that's what ends up happening. Highly, highly not recommended during an actual run. And in fact, that got me somewhere. I think it was during Snuggle Percent at GDQ last Friday that I ended up getting an unlucky roll there, and I wasn't able to push the minecarts, but... But yeah, I remember making the jump to that other Trico's leg completely by accident, and I was like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever! I was so excited. Now, of course, super, super hard to get the boy to realize that he can grab there. Like, you have to hit it essentially perfectly, or he just dies. Which is why I would never say that anybody should do that in an any percent. Never, never. But hey, we get nighttime for this section. Did I fix this? I had some problems with cutting this together. I hope I fixed this. I think I did. So, huge. Timing is super, super precise. We actually destroy this before the scene starts. It destroys at the same moment that the scene starts. Usually we can't do anything with that time. We just have to use the mirror for a hot second, and then it just forces control away from us. Also, earlier jump to that chain. Like, I worked on this section a ton this year. Faster chain climb. But just getting that armor was like the biggest improvement. But it has to be like perfect. You have exactly enough time to destroy that armor if you position yourself exactly correctly. Otherwise, you've just run over there for no reason. And just wasted time, you know? And as you can see, we do not have hold on Trico. I'll pull it out. I know there was a splice there, but this was all like the same file. I did all of this on the same day, so it was the same Trico. I wonder... I've just had a thought. I wonder what would happen if I spent the time to stack barrels, like in the Stacking Barrels trophy. If I could get him to eat 2 at a time. Because, yeah, they would be, like, vertically challenging, but they would both be on the same depth away from him. So I wonder if it would just count. Because as we've seen, he can eat 2 barrels at once. It's just exceptionally rare. Because this, you know, obviously, anything that we could do to speed this up would be huge. This is one of the slowest parts of the run. Because he has to put his head down in between each, you know? And we get that camera kick. So there we go. That extra 7.3 seconds was the 7.3 seconds that cutscene took for the mirror that we have now converted into cutscene plus destroying the armor. So we didn't have to spend the extra time doing that. And there's one other thing that I know is faster. Like, I remember working on it, and I remember putting it in and being really proud of it. So, looking forward to that. But we're already almost there. Can you believe that? We're at 2 hours and 11 minutes at Pink Sky. Like, that's, you know, 25 minutes faster than we should be there in an any percent if you're running at world record pace. I love that so much. So here's what I was talking about before, where Trico looks the wrong direction, and we were talking about, like, maybe he's hard-coded versus his AI trying to figure something out, and they're at odds with each other. You'll see it as he gets to the top. Because obviously he's doing these. This one's always a little bit unusual. This is in the task because he does a good job here. But typically he will fully turn around backwards and then do a full spin before he does this jump. This is literally the only time that I have ever seen him not do that spin. I think this is the single oldest clip in the TAS. I believe that this came from a run when my PB was still like 350 or something. I got it out of a Twitch VOD, but it was extremely early. And it's never happened since. So here, you can see, this is the direction he's looking, right? But actually the jump is behind him. He's looking in the wrong direction. And right here... Wait for it. There we go. Then he'll fix it. Right as he's about to jump, he'll fix it. And it's like, what are you looking at, my dude? And I'm assuming what he's looking at is the eventual place he's going to stand, which is where he is now. And so he's like not looking at the jump correctly. But that's always been kind of weird. And I almost died. That's fine. We could actually make that better. Because I don't need to fall down there. I would save like a second. Therefore, I have written it down. This task now has like really decent AI for Trico at these cages. One of the things that I didn't talk about before that I added for this year, at the very first cage, for some reason, I don't know why, the boy doesn't take the time to say, Trico, what's wrong? Before Trico jumps down. So we save a couple seconds of the boy having to say that. And I don't know what the difference was, but whatever, I have footage of it, that's what matters. Obviously, Trico does very well with this whole section. This is essentially as fast as I've ever been able to make it. Good focus, good position on his part. Mostly it's going to come down to that fast turn there. But I honestly wonder... I want to check. Because that went exceptionally well during really, really longathon, and I wonder if that turn was even better. Well, we'll look. Good job, Trico. I didn't split. No, and in any percent, we would never ever shoot the next mirror from Trico's back. That would just be ridiculous. But of course, because I have the luxury of grinding this as much as I want, we got a good one where Trico doesn't move. Spent a lot of time on this section, I remember, to really optimize it. Because it's not just about the mirrors, right? It's about Trico doing these jumps quickly. But yeah, we would never ever stand on his back here. Mort has become stuck on his big Christmas present. Because he has little tiny legs. You know, Mort, you could just come down. That's always an option. There you go. So Trico's doing this platforming. The important part here is that we're always exactly where we need to be on Trico to get off of him as fast as possible. And of course we trust that Trico's actually going to blow those up, because it is a problem in any percent where he can hit those and they don't explode for some reason. You can see there the debris coming down that he did in fact hit it. And I'm walking further away to get Trico to come toward me quicker. Which is why I went inside that room, even though we don't need to be in that room. And here's Aiden. Another clip from Aiden. I don't remember exactly what the difference was here, but I'm sure it was faster. Oh god, why would you do that? Okay, well that's why. That's so scary. That was an amazing jump though. This is the single easiest place in the game to die. So the fact that he made that's just wild. And his Trico's still up at the top. Very, very good. Meditating. Absolute champion. And it'll switch back to me here in just a second. Mort knows that he's beautiful. And he's like, I need everybody else to see it as well. It's a nice drop off of Trico there, using the physics and momentum to our advantage to just push him off the front of Trico's head. I love that I just spammed commands there because clearly that was the fastest way to do that. And normally that's like super something that you don't do. And Trico just shouted at me like, stop! I got it! So these are the armors that we destroyed before, which means they won't be there. I'm giving Trico commands preemptively to try to set up his AI. Which can be risky, you know, if you give Trico commands before he's fully completed what he's doing, you could distract him, get him to like turn around and go backwards, that kind of thing. And we do want to be on his head because we're about to make a jump off of his head. He's just really not good at flying, is he? Now, Walter, I believe, does this in any percent. I would never do this at any percent. Because 99% of the time, Trico just gets in your way. And he interrupts this mirror, and then you've wasted time. But of course, if we destroy this armor like this, then Trico doesn't get angry at it up above, and we don't need to shoot it from Trico's back. So it is the more ideal way to do it, if you can get it to work. The problem is you can almost never get it to work. It is true, we always talk about how the boy gets concussions, but we never talk about poor Trico slamming into things. Getting punched and such. Poor guy. I forgot you could do that. You can hop across like that. Really hard to move during this cutscene, but if you set it up correctly, you can already be out the door and going down the stairs. I don't remember if Walter did that during his world record. And we're almost there. We're almost to this other thing that I've added for this year. I really wanted to add it last year, but I ran out of time. It was really frustrating because even last year I got a clip that was like a half a second better, I'm sure, than this one. And I wasn't recording at the time. It is lost to history. Things are about to get wild. I'm so excited. This is the best part of the task to me. Okay, so obviously, first of all, still have to do this, but this year, I finally got it to work, where we got an ideal run down the bridge. You'll see, very specifically grabbing Trico just at the edge so that I can get down onto the floor. Controls are like wildly inverted, which is why you don't see me running quite in a straight line. And I'm calling Trico. I'm getting Trico to me during this cutscene, and you can see I almost fall through the bridge. Because Trico will automatically turn around and jump to the White Tower if he hits this spot. So having him directly behind me, we don't need to do that whole thing where you tell him what to do and then he like thinks about it and realizes that he needs to go backwards in order to go forwards. He's just doing it. And we did have something pretty decent there for... Oh, there we go. I tried to split and it didn't work, so we saved more time than it looked like. Alright, here's where things get real wild. I'm so excited. Gotta get this guy to grab me. Because the boy needs to be... Like, I need to not be in control of the boy for this to happen. And then I'm on Trico, he jumps into the wall, and it pushes me through the wall. So I'm out of bounds. You can see the elevator to my right, which is a bunch of green cubes. And all of this pathing is, like, really, really super specific. And we have to jump across, which only works from right there to trigger the next checkpoint. I need to give it time to trigger, which is why I fall this entire distance before resetting. You can actually choose to fall... Oh, my bad. This is elevator skip. You can actually choose to fall like all the way down through the White Tower and out the bottom of the world. And you can see a lot of the places that you've already been throughout the game and stuff. So we skipped, for those who are unfamiliar with this game, we skipped the entire fight at the front of the White Tower. That takes like multiple minutes to do. It was a gargantuan time save when we introduced it last year. And it's really cool because a lot of the green stuff that you were seeing off to the right when I did that was actually these helmets that we're putting on these armors. They're situated inside a really long green rectangle. And that's what you were seeing. It was just like their little housing, but from the untextured side. Also, doing elevator this way is extremely stressful because we don't kill any of these armors. And so, like, to not be grabbed and everything is just really stressful. Yeah, I was like, that is so unspeakably 1 in a million, you know? It was so rare, in fact, that I contacted Sancho, and I was like, Sancho, do you think it's fair if I put this in the task? Like, I felt bad about it because, like, nobody was ever going to be able to do it again. To have Trico, like, so perfectly lined up that he just forces you through the wall. And that the checkpoint reset works and everything, like... I felt bad including it, and Sancho was like, no, this is theoretical, of course put it in. So as always, you know, this fight can be improved. That being said, this is a really good fight. I remember putting this in and being like, that's actually pretty darn good. Because it's a 2-phase fight. This is supposed to be a 3-phase fight, but it's not sometimes. We don't know why. Alternatively, sometimes it's a 4-phase fight. Also for reasons that we don't understand. I think Yuzu, in a marathon, for like really long-a-thon or something, either got the 2-phase or the 4-phase. It was wrong, whatever it was. We were all very confused. But yeah, I mean, as far as what you could hope for, this is quite good. I'm shocked that I made that to that guy. Like, Trico's tail in the way and everything. Hey, good job, buddy! I don't know why it says we lost time there. We didn't. I must have just split it early last year. But yeah, we're gonna cheese our way into the little tunnel up here. And then it's a smooth sail until the end. Hi, Nanners. So, the question, I suppose. I'm assuming somebody in chat has been to a Starbucks before. I have not been to a Starbucks before because I don't drink caffeine. So I don't drink coffee. But they have hot chocolate, right? Because I have received a gift card from one of my clients for Starbucks because I'm assuming she presumes that I drink coffee. And they have to have other stuff, right? They have hot chocolate. Do they have like muffins and stuff? Because I don't just want to not use the gift card, yeah. But Husbando doesn't really drink coffee either. Yeah, pastries? Yeah. Alright, that's my jam. I'll get that stuff. Because every time I open my email, I'm like reminded that I still have this gift card. Egg bites. Well, that sounds good. Like little egg cream things. Tarts. This is so tight, this timing. Like, this is as far out as you can possibly leave the master and still get up his cage. It's wild. Egg and cheese with bacon bits? That sounds amazing. Jumping right to that plinth. I love that word, by the way. I'm so thankful to this game for introducing me to the word plinth. But Trico's gonna be out like immediately. Now, this task would be complete if there were Trico poops. If we could work poops into the task at the top of the White Tower, mwah, chef's kiss. Pink drink. Well, let's see. It's got strawberry with accents of passion fruit combined with creamy coconut milk. Gotta love the lighting at this point. Such a pretty part of the game. Nanners, I will let you out in a little bit, honey. Oh, we're almost there. I'm so excited to bank this time. This is our final split. We just gotta get through these, like the other Trico scripted thing. And the tail, I guess. But yeah, really, really happy. Hey, Sancho! Can you restart? Okay, hang on. Let me just reset the splits real quick. How you been, Sancho? Nice to see you. We were discussing Starbucks. Because I have a gift card that I don't know how to use. I'm really excited about the time save, to be quite honest. Like, every year, I really feel like I've just completely wrung this dry, and there's not possibly any more time I could get out of it. And then, we always find something. And like I was saying, Aiden's contributions this year, gargantuan. I don't even think that Aiden knows that, but... like, Aiden did a lot this year with clips, as far as... like, I added a lot of stuff from his runs. A lot of fights, a lot of really good platforming. Impossible breakfast sandwich. Alright, I'll take that under advisement. But yeah, my primary two contributions, like the ones that I'm most proud of, are that run from the second tower right before White Tower to like game Trico's AI. And what was the other one? The other big thing. Oh, exploding one of the armors at Nom Noms before the cutscene plays. Like both of those were the things that I worked the longest on. But there were like a ton of like little things. Me just swapping out some platforming for like some 0.5 second better platforming kind of stuff, you know. So I mean, as per usual, by the way, anybody and everybody is welcome to participate in this task. It's not just me. I mean, it's me who spearheads it, but I am obviously happy to take clips from anybody. You don't even have to be trying to, you know, record task clips. Just record yourself as you play, and if you think something cool happened, show me. It's not your responsibility to time it and see if it's better or anything. Like, just send it to me, and I'll either use it or, you know, maybe we can develop something new and cool from it. The idea to essentially be able to skip the fight with the female Trico after the water puzzles, I got from somebody playing Last Guardian for the first time. So sometimes it just takes like a unique perspective to unlock multiple minutes of time save. So don't hesitate to participate. We all love this game. We're just here having fun. Yeah, her name was Bubbles, and she was having a really hard time, like, figuring out where to go while fighting that other Trico, and I was there in her stream. I raided into her after, like, some Last Guardian stream, just because she was also playing it. And she was having a really hard time figuring out where to go, and she ended up wedging herself back in that corner. And I was like, wait a second, where is this? And sure enough, like, I went into my own game, and there was this tiny little corner that I had never noticed, with all of this architecture that I could climb. Well, you know, climb in quotes. Could force myself onto. And we just skipped the entire fight. So it was a very fun way to discover, like, multiple minutes of not having to do stuff. It's sad that you can't yeet yourself through the windows. I wish that that were true. But there are, in fact, invisible walls. It's just, you know. We'll take what we can get, I guess. Here we go! This is our final little segment. And I worked for quite a while to optimize this too. It's only like, you know, 15 seconds of gameplay or something, but being able to get this tail drop, you know, on the first try, just real smoothly, and falling down feet first is actually huge, because then you don't have to stand up. Just dunk and you're already standing, so. And then first try shot on the master is going to be the thing, right? I was a little conservative in how I split just to make sure. But there you go. New PB of more than a minute and a half, so... Hey Shavio, nice to see ya. I've got the cutscenes baked in here, because it feels disingenuous to have a Last Guardian speedrun and not have all the stuff at the end. So yeah, I'm really happy with what we achieved this year. I mean, here's to next year, right? We've still got like 20 minutes of cutscenes, don't leave. But here's to next year. Finding some new and exciting stuff, I hope. How does boy not get stabbed with shrapnel? Main character syndrome, you know? It's magic. So now we actually get to find out what happens. Which we never do whenever I run this in a marathon. Because for some reason they don't choose the watch cutscenes incentive, even though that has never failed to be met. Hey Sokasa, how are ya? Does the shooing Trico away count toward inputs? It does in the true ending version. That's why we split that off. But for typical any percent, we just end here. Because that shooing him away is skippable. If you choose to skip the cutscenes, it'll skip that too, so it's not actually considered true gameplay. Getting in those last-minute lizard treats, thank you! I'll give them the Gladio if that's alright, because Mort still is not super into eating. Yeah, I'll actually give him to him like right after stream and then post it in the Discord. I've been saving up like a bunch of giving the reptiles treats videos so that I could post them all at once. from people who have cashed in the give the lizards a treat and that I haven't done it on stream. Poor Frankie. I look over here all the time. Frank is in his new enclosure now, and I feel so bad because I don't think he feels very good. I might take him to the vet. He's just kind of not very energetic. I think honestly his eyes hurt, because I mentioned before that he has kind of cloudy eyes, and he always has. But I wonder if, you know, from the person that I got him from before, he was severely overweight with her, and I wonder if, you know, somehow that hurt his eyes or something. So I've been babying him a little bit, seeing if we can make him feel better. Hi, other Trico! You're finally fixed. You're not angry anymore. I'll say this every time I watch these cutscenes. There's no way that Trico should have any feathers left. He loses feathers constantly. Mort, you goob. I was gonna zoom into you because you're literally sitting still, and now as soon as I did that, you moved. What an absolute goober. He was sitting there for like 20 minutes, right? And I was like, he's not gonna move. I'll just have this nice shot of Mort. But nah, I'm not allowed. You know what I should do next year? I should, since all of these are just like the cutscenes anyway, I should cut in the 60 FPS versions of the cutscenes. It'll make for a bigger file, but it's also very pretty. I literally reached over just now to pick up my controller because I was like, oh, I have to do this little section. I love how you can see steam coming out of Trico's nose. Like, you get the impression that he worked really hard to get you here. I don't know how you could possibly be angry at these creatures. Like, a Trico comes into your village and you're like, yep, that thing's scary. Instead of, aw. You know? I mean, I guess it's gargantuan. So if you leave Trico and you don't do this input, he will get, like, peppered with spears. It'll, like, zoom in and everything. Agonizingly as you watch him get shanked. They do abduct kids, that's fair. But I mean, like, the first time that a Trico showed up, before they knew that. Goodbye, Trico. Poor Trico's like, ugh, I have to fly all the way back. I doubt it has long to live there, is what did me in when I played this for the first time. I was like keeping it together until that point, and then I was like, nah, you can't do that to me. Because you're like, yeah, he got away, it's okay. And then it was also this, and that is how it ended our extraordinary story. That was like the second punch to the gut. When I was like, okay, well, it's actually over, I guess. And these credits are cool. Like, yeah, they're credits, sure. But after it shows these little, like, summary things, it starts to show the game from Trico's perspective, which I thought was cool. I agree, Cheville. Like, I think that they really kind of hit the best of both worlds, right? Because a lot of times for me, when I'm watching something or I'm emotionally invested in something, I kind of want it to go bad. Because Everybody Lived Happily Ever After isn't necessarily satisfying, or like it's too cheap, you know? I want there to be stakes, I want there to be consequences or effects of what happened. So sometimes, you know, Husbando doesn't really understand that in some of the things that we watch. Like, I guess, okay, like Attack on Titan. Nobody spoil Attack on Titan for me because I haven't watched the final, like, 2 seasons or whatever. Not like I really care at this point, but back when Attack on Titan first came out and everybody was obsessed with Commander Levi, I was like, I want him to die. And everybody was like, no, there's no way he's gonna die. And like I said, I don't know if he's dead now. Don't tell me. But he was like this really valued character. And I was like, I want him to die. Because I want there to be actual stakes. I don't want there to be, oh yeah, these guys died, but they were like the people that you knew for like 5 seconds. You know? I wanted that bittersweet feeling. I wanted there to be consequences. Don't give me plot armor, yeah. And also, hi Mantis, if I didn't say that, I'm sorry. I know that you're here, but I don't know if I explicitly said hi to you. Hello. And so with Last Guardian, it was satisfying in a way to actually see that Trico was like, he was hurt and he got away, but the people were like, nah, he's not gonna live for very long. You know, that hurts. And that was good. Because, as you said, Mantis, Ueda loves a bittersweet ending. And bittersweet is one of my favorite emotions. Bittersweet is really powerful. Because bittersweet is complex. And I really like that. And Ueda nailed it with I Doubt It Has Long to Live. That's when you get the bittersweet. Because you're like, he got away, but... And then again, you get the bittersweet with, and that's how it ended our extraordinary story. Because then you realize that it's over. There is no like, well, maybe we'll see Trico again and everything will be okay. So you maintain that bittersweet and you get that sense of finality. So you get to enjoy that and you get to marinate in it for the entire credits here, which are, I believe, 8 minutes. So that's a decently long time to just kind of be sitting there staring at the TV like, I don't know if everything was okay, you know? Also, thanks, Ryan, for the GGs. Appreciate that. But see, exactly, right, Chassis? That makes you feel sick to your stomach. So we have this extra little bit after the credits. So that's what I mean when I say it's like the best of both worlds. You get the people who crave that bittersweet get to hang on to that and relish in it and be like, yeah, this was good. But then you get the resolution which feels good for people who, like Ryan, just like happy, but also feels good for people who were sitting in the bittersweet. Because bittersweet has sweet in it, right? There is still a craving for wanting something good to happen. It's like the final cutscene here, with it looking like the title screen, and you have to actually like sit and wait for it to and hit buttons. Like the fact that you have to hit buttons to make this ending thing happen is a reflection of you as the player. It rewards the players who are like, no, you can't stop there. You know? Because it rewards you. The people who are craving to see Trico again and to make sure that he's okay are rewarded by getting the scene that you get when you continue to interact with the game. And the people who are happy about the bittersweet ending will just turn it off. So I really think that Ueda did like a really good job with how this game ends, to speak correctly to multiple types of people. See, I found Shadow to be bittersweet, like on an intellectual level, but I viewed Wonder as a villain when I played it. Like, I could tell that he was the villain, in a sense, right? He's not full-fledged the villain because, well, he's a, what do they call that? Like a compassionate villain, or like a, kind of like an anti-hero, you know? So it was sad, but I don't know, it just didn't hit as hard for me, I think, as Last Guardian did. And part of it, to be quite honest, has to do with this music that's gonna play, like, right now. Like, they knew what they were doing. Come on. And this music is written, like, music theory-wise, specifically to allude to what's about to happen. Like, it's in a major key, you know, we're getting themes from our time with Trico, not master theme, White Tower theme, armor theme, whatever. We're getting themes from our time with Trico, these little motifs that are connecting us with Trico in the same way that the mirror light is literally trying to call to him. And so, you know, again, you're being paid off before the actual payoff happens. And so you get this more substantial reward, which I think they did really, really well. I like villains as characters when they are genuinely sympathetic, when I genuinely understand where they're coming from. Not when I, like, understand on a theoretical level, you know. So it's really hard to do a villain that I do actually, like, really like. I just finished Undertale, actually, Chassis. I finished it last week for the first time. Thanks, Shabil. I appreciate that. So there we go. That is the end. We did it. Excellent game. I mean, you don't need to tell me twice. But yeah, so that is the reward for the people who want the happy ending. But even still, it's not entirely happy, right? Because you're not together. But you kind of are. Which is I also really like the trophy name, Though We Are Far Apart, because it alludes to exactly that, right? Like we're not physically together, but we're together. So really, really good game. Love it. That was the task. I need to go. But I really appreciate all of you. Thanks for hanging out. Let me turn off these captions. But yeah, no worries, Chassis. Like even if I hadn't played Undertale, I would have just seen your comment and then just immediately not read it. So it would have been okay. Mostly it's just the people who, you know, vindictively try to do that I care about. And obviously you're not like that, so. But I also appreciate you, Shavil, for trying to catch it for my sake. Let's see. Who do we want to raid? We raided Ruby yesterday. Not that Ruby isn't a wonderful person. And maybe we'll raid Ruby again because I don't have very many friends who are streaming. Let's see. Mutsky. Does anybody have friends who are streaming? Just in case. 'Cause otherwise. Yeah, what's your suggestion, Seville? What's up? I gotta get a drink. For sure, Chassis. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Since we're talking about Undertale, and I do still care about spoilers for other people, even though I've played it now, so go away for 10 seconds. I watched somebody else play the genocide route. Like, I wasn't gonna do that. And they, you know, the game critiques you for doing that, but Adam J93. Well, Cheville, I will trust your word for it. Let's do it. So let's raid Adam J93. Appreciate it. I love receiving suggestions like that. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. This is one of my favorite things that I do in the entire year, so it's always really nice to have other people hanging out at the same time. I'll be back next year, obviously, with another task. I'll be back next week with another Last Guardian stream on Thursday. Also in my Discord, I'm going to be posting something around Christmas, but that'll be Discord only. So, in any case, say hi when you get over there. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Bye.